In the opulent kingdom of Persia, the air was thick with tales of enchantment and peril. A land where the glistening minarets touched the heavens and the aroma of exotic spices filled the bustling bazaars. Amongst this grandeur lived a young woman named Scheherazade, known throughout the realm for her unparalleled beauty, wisdom, and unyielding courage. Her story, woven through the fabric of 1001 Nights, is one of survival, intellect, and the transformative power of storytelling. Shahrazade's tale begins in the grand palace of King Shahryar, a ruler whose heart had turned to stone following the betrayal of his first wife. In his despair and rage, he devised a cruel decree. Each night he would marry a new virgin, only to have her executed at dawn. This cycle of brutality cast a dark shadow over the kingdom, instilling fear and hopelessness in the hearts of his subjects. But in the midst of this terror, Scheherazade, the daughter of the king's vizier, stepped forward with a daring plan to end the king's reign of terror. The palace of King Shahryar was a marvel of architectural splendor, with its soaring domes, intricate mosaics, and lush gardens. It was within these opulent walls that Scheherazade's fate would be decided. The night she was to become the king's bride, she prepared herself meticulously. Adorned in exquisite silks and jewels, her mind sharp and ready, she had spent years learning the art of storytelling, her intellect and imagination honed to perfection. As she approached the king's chamber, she carried with her the weight of her own survival and the hope of her people. Scheherazade's beauty was unparalleled, but it was her mind that truly set her apart. Her father, the vizier, had taught her the wisdom of ancient texts and the secrets of the natural world. She was not just a daughter of the court, but a scholar in her own right. The deep understanding of human nature and the complexities of the world. As she entered the king's chamber, her heart pounded with a mixture of fear and determination. She knew that her only chance of survival lay in her ability to captivate the king with her tales. That night, under the flickering light of oil lamps, Scheherazade began her first story. Her voice was steady and clear, weaving a tale of adventure and magic. It caught the king's attention. As dawn approached, she deftly left the story unfinished, promising to continue the next night. Intrigued by her storytelling prowess, King Shahryar spared her life for another day, eager to hear the conclusion. And so, the cycle began, with Scheherazade spinning tale after tale, each more enthralling than the last, keeping the king in suspense and buying herself another day of life. Scheherazade's first night. On the first night of their union, Scheherazade sat on a richly adorned divan in King Shahryar's opulent chamber, heart beating like a drum in her chest. The room was filled with the soft glow of lanterns, casting long shadows on the walls decorated with intricate tapestry. The air was heavy with the scent of incense, and outside, the sounds of the bustling city of Baghdad slowly faded into the quiet of the night. Scheherazade knew that her life depended on her ability to captivate the king's attention and keep him intrigued until dawn. She began her tale with the confidence and grace of a seasoned storyteller, her voice a soothing melody that filled the room. Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a poor fisherman named Ali Baba. She started, drawing the king into a world of mystery and wonder. Her story unfolded with vivid descriptions of magical caves, treacherous thieves, and hidden treasures, each detail carefully crafted to captivate and enthrall. King Shahryar, who had become accustomed to the monotony of his nightly rituals, found himself entranced by Scheherazade's story. Her words painted pictures in his mind, transporting him to distant lands and into the lives of her character. As the night wore on, he leaned forward, eager to hear what would happen next. But just as Ali Baba was about to uncover a great secret, Scheherazade paused, her eyes twinkling with a mischievous glint. "My lord," she said softly, "the dawn is near, and I must leave the rest of the tale for tomorrow night." The king, now deeply invested in the story, reluctantly agreed, sparing her life for another day in anticipation of the next installment. This clever strategy became Shahrazade's lifeline, her storytelling a delicate dance of suspense and intrigue that kept the king at bay. Each night, she wove new tales of adventure, romance, and wisdom, drawing from a vast repertoire of stories she had learned over the years. She told of Sinbad the sailor and his incredible voyages across the seven seas, of Aladdin and his magical lamp, and of the clever merchant who outwitted greedy officials. Her stories were rich with cultural heritage, moral lessons, and the timeless struggle between good and evil. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, Shahrazade's storytelling became a nightly ritual that the king eagerly awaited. Palace, once a place of dread and despair, began to buzz with the excitement of her tales. Servants and guards would linger outside the king's chamber, straining to catch a snippet of her enchanting stories. Fear that had gripped the kingdom slowly gave way to hope, as news of the brave and clever Scheherazade spread far and wide. The kingdom's transformation. Scheherazade's stories did more than just save her life. They began to transform the kingdom itself. As word of her captivating tales spread, people from all walks of life found themselves drawn to the palace, eager to hear the latest story. The marketplace buzzed with merchants and traders who would gather in the evenings to recount the tales they had heard, sharing them with anyone who would listen. Her stories brought a sense of unity and purpose to a kingdom that had been shrouded in fear and despair. The tales Scheherazade told were not just flights of fancy. They carried deep moral lessons and reflections on human nature. Through her stories, she subtly imparted wisdom and values, teaching the virtues of kindness, courage, and justice. One story told of a wise caliph who ruled with fairness and compassion, setting an example for the king and his court. Another tale highlighted the strength and resilience of women, challenging the patriarchal norms of the society. In the palace, the king's demeanor began to change. He became more thoughtful and introspective, often pondering the lessons embedded in Scheherazade's stories. His initial intent to kill her was slowly eroded by his growing respect for her intelligence and creativity. He found himself eagerly anticipating the next tale, not just for its entertainment value, for the insights it offered into his own life and rule. Outside the palace walls, common folk were also transformed by the stories. Families would gather in the evenings to share the tales, children wide-eyed with wonder as they listened to the adventures of heroes and heroines. The stories became a means of preserving cultural heritage, passing down traditions and values from one generation to the next. They inspired acts of kindness and bravery, as people sought to emulate the virtues they heard about in Scheherazade's tales. Even the most hardened soldiers and officials found themselves moved by the stories. They began to question their own actions and the justice of the king's decrees. The stories fostered a sense of empathy and understanding, bridging the gap between the rulers and the ruled. In this way, Sheherazade's storytelling not only saved her own life, but also sparked a quiet revolution within the kingdom. The transformation was most evident in the king himself. Once a ruler known for his cruelty and paranoia, King Shahryar began to show signs of compassion and wisdom. He started to engage more with his subjects, listening to their grievances and seeking to rule with fairness. The influence of Sheherazade's stories was undeniable, reshaping his character and his approach to governance. As the nights turned into months, and the months into years, the kingdom flourished under this newfound sense of justice and unity. The fear that had once gripped the land was replaced by hope and optimism. Scheherazade's bravery and brilliance had not only saved her life, but had also healed a fractured kingdom, proving the timeless power of storytelling to transform hearts and minds. King Shahryar's transformation. The transformation of King Shahryar was profound and multifaceted, driven by the cumulative impact of Scheherazade's nightly tales. Initially, he had viewed her as merely another victim in his cycle of vengeance, but her extraordinary storytelling skills slowly chipped away at the fortress of his heart. Night after night, she wove intricate narratives that held up a mirror to his soul, reflecting his fears, hopes, and the potential for redemption. One particularly poignant night, Scheherazade told the story of a ruler much like Shahryar himself, harsh and unyielding, driven by a need for control and retribution. This ruler encountered a wise sage who taught him the virtues of compassion and forgiveness. As the tale unfolded, the parallels to Shahryar's own life became unmistakable. He saw himself in the ruler, saw his own bitterness, and the isolation it had wrought. For the first time, he began to question the path he had taken, and the legacy he was creating. As the stories continued, Shahryar found himself reflecting deeply on his actions and their consequence. He realized that his relentless pursuit of vengeance had not only hurt countless innocent lives, but had also imprisoned him in a cycle of loneliness and mistrust. Sheherazade's stories illuminated a path to healing and redemption, showing him that strength could also be found in mercy and understanding. These narratives were not just tales of distant lands and fantastical adventures, but profound lessons in humanity. One night, Scheherazade recounted the story of a young prince who, despite his royal lineage, chose to walk among his people in disguise. He learned their hardships and joys, discovering that true leadership required empathy and humility. This story struck a chord deep within Shahryar, as he began to understand that ruling with an iron fist had isolated him from his own people. Inspired by the young prince's journey, Shahryar started to venture beyond the palace walls, albeit in secret, to see the reality of his kingdom firsthand. His interactions with his subjects revealed a kingdom ripe with potential but burdened by fear. He listened to their stories, their struggles, and their hopes for a better future. The humility he gained from these encounters began to soften his heart, fostering a desire to be a more just and compassionate ruler. The change did not go unnoticed by his court, who were initially skeptical, but gradually came to appreciate the more reflective and considerate king. Scheherazade's influence grew stronger as her tales continued to shape the king's transformation. She skillfully interwove themes of forgiveness, redemption, and the power of love into her stories, guiding Shahryar towards a new understanding of his role as a leader. In one tale, a king wronged by his brother chose to forgive, leading to a prosperous and united kingdom. This story resonated deeply with Shahryar, prompting him to reconsider his own grudges and past decisions. The king began implementing reforms that reflected his newfound wisdom.